Hello and welcome. I'm Deborah Vinsel. Tonight is election night 2012, and here at Thurston Community Television, we're going to be on the air for the next hour to bring you local election results. The country is waiting to find out who our next president will be. Right now, about 50% of the electoral votes have been tallied, but it's a very close race, as you can see on other networks. Our focus today, though, is our local races, so we will be bringing you information about Thurston County Commission races, the Thurston Power Initiative. We'll be looking at results for some of the statewide initiatives and how they're trending in Thurston County, and we'll be talking to some candidates at their celebrations later in the show. But first, we'd like to welcome the listeners at KAOS 89.3 FM in Olympia. So if you're not close to a television, you can certainly listen there. And for those of you who are listening, by all means, tune in to TCTV channels 3, 22, 26, or 77 to watch our show. So I'd like to, I think I can say hello to our friend John Ford out at KAOS. Hi, John.
Good evening indeed. This is John Ford at KAOS 89.3 FM, Olympia.
So it's election night, John. This is, I think, the second or third time we've teamed up to do some election coverage with you.
I was thinking about it over the time you and I, it's actually the fourth.
Oh, it's the fourth. Time flies.
Over roughly 20 years.
And we lose track of these things. So what's KAOS doing tonight to celebrate election night?
Well, we've been carrying Amy Goodman's coverage. We live stream from Democracy Now!, albeit with the occasional break for buffering. I love it. You're going along to like no sound while it says buffering. And we'll go back to that actually after we cut away from you folks at 9 p.m. It's been very interesting. She's been bringing in voices from around the country who aren't going to get heard on the big networks.
Yeah.
So it's really good. And part of me is just really glad this is going to be relatively over soon.
Yes, we're here for an hour, and we're kind of doing the same thing Amy does, but we're doing it on a local level. So we're going to be bringing our viewers and your listeners information about local races that you're not going to find anyplace else on television or radio broadcast. So I want to thank you out at KAOS for carrying our audio for the next hour. We appreciate the partnership and would like to tell all of the listeners and our viewers to support community media. KAOS 89.3 FM and TCTV, we're your community media.
Indeed. Like I said, glad for it to be over because this has been a long, ugly election season. No matter what it was, no matter what office, no matter what issue, it ain't been pretty.
No, especially at the federal level. It started 2 years ago,
yeah,
something like that.
The Olympics of mendacity.
Yes. So I'm going to let you get back to your job, and I'm going to get on with mine. But thank you again for being our partner for this election coverage tonight.
Well, happy to do it. And, of course, I'm happy to work with TCTV. Full disclosure, I am a community board member.
Yes, you are.
And proud to do that as well. Folks, enjoy the results as best you can. If you didn't vote, I don't want to hear from you. And a good night to you.
It's too late. Thanks, John. So for all of our listeners out there at KAOS, thank you for tuning in. And for our viewers, thank you for joining us tonight now. And thanks to our friends at KAOS for being a part of this. Every year, as is our tradition here at Thurston Community Television, we invite elected officials who are leaving office to come in and share some recollections about their time in office. Well, right now, we have 2 county commissioners who are incumbents who are running, so they're not leaving office yet that we know of. We're waiting for results on that. But we have a dear friend of TCTV's who was our Thurston County auditor when I was hired here. Sam Reed, our Secretary of State, had decided not to run for re-election this year, and so he will be leaving office at the end of his term. I had the great pleasure, with the help from Robert Kam and Vicki Adams, TCTV staff, to meet with Sam last week to discuss his final days in office and a look back on his political career. So it is my pleasure to share with you a conversation with Sam Reed. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome our outgoing Secretary of State and friend of TCTV, Sam Reed, to be with us this evening. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to sit down with me for a few minutes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it because TCTV meant so much to me when I was the Thurston County auditor. We launched the first video voters guide in the state of Washington, which have emulated, statewide through TVW, and we did many innovative things back in those days, and TCTV was a great partner.
We did. So you have been a public servant for more than 40 years, 45 years, and before becoming an elected official, you were a teacher.
That's right. I taught at Jefferson then junior high, now middle school. I taught mainly social studies, but also social studies reading block, and actually got a real kick out of it. I taught 7th graders. And a lot of times I say 7th graders, people say, oh, yeah. But they were fun. It was a dynamic group. Boy, you really had to stay on your toes, though. And I actually planned to return to teaching, but never made it back. So.
Well, maybe you have an opportunity.
Yeah, right.
Coming up. Your roots in state government, what in elected office, just in government in general, go pretty far back in your family. Your grandfather was a member of the legislature.
My grandfather, Sam Sumner, after whom I'm named, was a member of the Washington State House of Representatives. He served as the prosecuting attorney for Chelan County, and he also chaired the Washington State Republican Party. And he, like in our Sunday dinners, we always got a good history lesson, civics lesson, and he was a courtroom attorney, so he had a way of doing it, with a little bit of drama and everything. So, wouldn't be boring for a kid.
So it intrigued you.
Right, and I really think he instilled in me the sense that politics is the highest calling.
Mm-hmm. So was public service to others, a big philosophy in your family?
It was, and we were a very political family overall. But as I got out of WSU undergraduate work, I really had just more of this vague notion of service to others and working in the field. That's why teaching was a possibility. I'd thought of a few other ones, but of course ended up in government service.
So you served in the Evans administration. Tell us a little bit about your experiences then, and maybe compare and contrast to, what working in state government was like then versus working in state government now.
It was more of a tumultuous time because it was in the late 60s and early 70s. It was the time of the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the environmental movement, and students were in turmoil because of the war in Vietnam and the protests going on. And so it was really, actually very exciting, for me as a young person. But also it was a transformational period politically for our state because we're really going from more of a rural state and state government orientation to realizing we had to really kick it up a few gears because we were becoming a metropolitan urban state.
Mm-hmm. I think when I first came to the state of Washington was in 1990. So you came to TCTV in 91, and we, as you said before, we implemented the Video Voters Guide, and that's how I came to know you, was as our Thurston County mm-hmm. auditor. And then you aspired to this higher office. Ralph Monroe was leaving office, and you were elected as the Secretary of State. So your first couple of years were certainly getting your feet on the ground, and then came 2004. And that was quite an election. And as our chief elections officer, you were challenged in a lot of different ways.
I certainly was, but a real advantage I had going into it is as Thurston County auditor, I had been through a couple of major recounts, and you will recall the Linda Smith, Brian Baird recount. Some of the same dynamics. People were upset. The two opponents were angry at one another. The parties were angry. And I was right in the middle of it, and including having people from the national level there hanging over my shoulder. I had another congressional district recount back in my early years as county auditor, so I really didn't know what to do. But you're correct. It was challenging because I was first sued by the Democrats. They were unhappy with this Republican Secretary of State because of the directions I put out for the recount. Went all the way to the state Supreme Court. It won a unanimous decision. The Republicans not only were with me, but they even had an attorney there supporting me. And then, like a week later, all of a sudden, because things shifted, all of a sudden the Republicans got upset with me. They sued me, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and I won. So I'm now succeeded to get both the Democrats and Republicans mad at me. Yeah, right. And of course, some of the problems going on out in the counties, particularly King County. So it was a huge challenge. But what I realized very early, and again, fortunately I had my experience as Thurston County auditor, is how important it was to be transparent about what we're going to do, and to have everybody in my staff who'd be talking to the news media and these players to be in the same song sheet. So I really made a point in my press conferences and accessibility to be available to the news media, and I was, and boy, they called me. They'd call me from 6 in the morning until 11 at night.
Yeah. Well, on a personal note, as a registered Democrat, I can say, and as someone who I consider you to be a friend and a colleague, I was very proud of your office at that election. I mean, I could look to my Republican family and say, this is our Secretary of State, and look what he did, and look how he did it. And we were very proud of how you conducted that whole process, because it was so contentious, and you were right in the middle of it.
Well, thank you. I take very seriously my oath of office to uphold the constitutional laws of the state of Washington. And so it never occurred to me that I should put my fingers on the scale or play partisan politics or something, because that was not my job. Mm-hmm. My job was to be the Secretary of State for all the people and to conduct it in a fair way so that, and comply with all the laws and the Constitution.
I was at a fundraising event locally, and we were having a couple of, I don't know, probably a year or two after that, conversation with folks, and I said, yeah, Sam really found himself in an interesting place there. And I can't remember exactly who I was talking to, but a local community leader said, yeah, he's one of the few people who doesn't wear his party affiliation on his sleeve. And I thought that was quite a compliment for you. So,
well, it is. You know, I am a Republican. I've been an active Republican throughout my life, and was active as a county auditor as well as Secretary of State. But that's my private life. Mm-hmm. When I'm Secretary of State, I'm not here to push a Republican agenda, nor if I were a Democrat, should I push the Democrats' agenda. And I do think that we demonstrated that thoroughly throughout that process, and hopefully throughout my 12 years.
So that obviously was a point in your history as our Secretary of State, that the spotlight was very, very bright. But I know that there are several other things that you probably want to share that are, you know, the things that you're really proud you've been able to accomplish in the last 12 years. So what are some of those things?
I think probably the most significant one is saving or preserving a wide open primary system for the state of Washington. Literally the day I walked in the door as Secretary of State, I was served with papers, Washington State Democratic Party et al. Versus Sam Reed. And the et al. Was the Republican Party, Libertarian Party, to try to undo our open primary system here in the state of Washington. It ended up being one heck of a fight, and but I managed to get through after the court ruled their old blanket primary unconstitutional, a top two primary, which is as close to that as possible that is constitutional, in my opinion, and got it through the legislature in spite of both parties just pounding on the legislators. To have Governor Luck do a partial veto on it, which I was so disappointed because he had told me before he was all for an open primary. And so we got initiative on the ballot. It passed overwhelmingly. It was challenged all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. We won a 7-2 decision, which was a landmark decision. And I think this really fits the political heritage of the state of Washington. People do not want to be restricted in the primary. And so I'm very proud of that. The second thing is, actually speaking of Governor Locke again, I'm not picking on him, but in 2002, out of nowhere, he proposed to eliminate the Washington State Library. And I couldn't believe it. Now, it had nothing to do with me. It's an agency under the governor. Right. But I spoke up and said, that may be one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. You know, it is unique in the world in terms of its collection of Washington State history, territorial history, every newspaper ever published in Washington State or territory, every state government document and federal document having to do with the state of Washington, the territory of Washington. Plus, very importantly, Congress appropriates money for libraries, and it has to go to a state library. And the local libraries apply for grants, and it's a huge amount of money, very important for the local library community. Well, I ended up stepping up, and the library community wanted to do more, so I did a few guest editorials, and then two legislators dropped in a bill to save it by putting it in my office. Told me afterwards.
It's like, here you
But,
go.
yeah, right. But I said, fine, I'd be honored. But that put me in a big fight to save it, and we succeeded. And
Right.
I'm very proud of that. That's been very important. I think important for the future of our state. The third is that when I was Thurston County Auditor, I sent over to our state archives, which is a part of the Secretary of State's office, some electronic records. They sent them back and said, what are we supposed to
What
do
do we
with
do with these?
Yeah, right. Paper or film, period. And I said, you're going to miss a lot of history if you don't do electronic records. Plus, is history going to be accessible? And nope, paper or film. So when I came Secretary of State, the very first session, introduced a bill. It took a lot to get it through, but got it passed. And we have built and created the first ground-up digital archives in the nation and one of the first in the world. And it has been enormously successful. We have over 100 million documents now that are available online. And we are now rated, one of the best states in the nation by all the genealogy magazines and others that pay attention. So I would say those four things are probably the most significant things that we've done. And it's been really great fun to be part of it, but also it's really a good feeling.
Right.
To think, not only have you done your job, but you've actually made history.
And establish this infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So, wonderful accomplishments, but I know there are probably a couple of things that, darn, didn't quite get accomplished as you had hoped, and maybe out there in the future for your successor, a couple of things you hope might be able to be pushed through?
Well, my big disappointment is that I championed getting a heritage center up here on the West Capitol campus. It would house the Washington State Library and State Archives and have a floor where some of the enormously significant documents that are in those library collections and archives collections on exhibit, so when people visit the Capitol, they can actually learn something about the history of the state of Washington and in the Washington Territory. And then a learning center for children, so they can learn how to research, plus learn some civics. I worked very hard on it, worked with all the legislators, got a great vote on that as a separate bill.
It was a popular idea.
46 to 1, and in the Senate, and almost the same in the House. And hired architects, even contracted with the construction company when the bond market collapsed right before we could go out for bonds. And the legislature ended up mothballing it, and so that's where we are right now. So really it'd be up to the next Secretary of State, and I think it is very important. I'll continue, as a volunteer to advocate for it as well.
Timing is everything. And I remember, because I had seen some presentations about what it was going to be and how it would be funded, and then right at that, that apocalypse, that financial apocalypse we faced, it was just, the timing just worked against you on that one. So you're going to be leaving office, but I know you're not going to be leaving a life of service, because that seems, that's what you are. So what are your plans after the next secretary sits at this desk?
Well, for your viewers, one thing I want to say is Margie and I plan to continue living here in Olympia.
Yay.
We love it here. This is where our friends are, our community, it's our community. So we are going to continue to be here. I will certainly serve, like board or commission, kind of advisory capacity. But I really plan to retire. I'm not going to lobby or consult or anything like that. I have grandsons I want to spend more time with.
And how old are they?
They are 6 and 9.
Oh, yeah, that's a good age.
Yes, a lot of fun. And Margie and I are tennis players, plan to play a lot more tennis. I have been lobbied real hard by the director of the Institute of Politics at Harvard to come back, apply to be a Harvard Fellow. And when I first told Margie, she said, wait a minute, you're supposed to be retiring. But then as I learned more about it, and she did, we decided, yeah, I'm going to apply for that. It's because it's just 13 weeks.
Right.
They provide you with a furnished two-bedroom apartment, and you teach a seminar once a week for undergraduates, it's not for credit. And the idea is that people like me have been practitioners out there, making government work, involved in the political scene, who can say, here's how it really works, just not what your poli-sci profs are saying. So I'm going to play for that, and if I do that, it'd be the fall of 2013. And my friends at WSU found out about this. Ooh, you got to come over and do it there too. Yeah. Right.
Come to Pullman.
And I'll see about that. But obviously, I would enjoy doing something like that.
Well, I know I speak for many people when I say thank you for your many years of service to our community here in Thurston County and to our state. I think you've been an exemplary Secretary of State, and we look forward to seeing who's following, but there won't be anybody quite like Sam Reed. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, and thanks to TCTV. I think you provided an enormously important service for the people of Thurston County, and as I mentioned earlier in the interview, working with you folks was great as your county auditor, and I'm just glad to see you're continuing to go onward and upward through the years.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was Secretary of State Sam Reed. It was my distinct pleasure and honor to be able to sit with him. I remember 20-some years ago when I first met Sam, and he came to our office and said, we're going to do a video voter's guide, and we're going to get it out to all the viewers in Thurston County. And he really supported us, and we greatly appreciate that. And we wish him all the best in his retirement. I'd also like to say thank you to KAOS for carrying the audio of this program. If you're listening at KAOS 89.3 FM in Olympia, thank you for joining us. And if you're listening and you get to somewhere where you can tune us in on TCTV channels, all of the TCTV channels, 3, 22, 26, and 77 tonight. So thank you for joining us. Well, there are some results in, and we do have Thurston County results. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on tonight. The elections office has told us that anything that was received or dropped into a drop box and picked up by about 2 o'clock this afternoon, they did several pickups today, those ballots would all be counted and are included in the numbers you will be seeing tonight. However, anything that was mailed today, dropped in one of the ballot drop boxes later in the afternoon, will be counted tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. There will be several counts. The Elections Department anticipated that they would be counting between 30 and 40,000 votes tomorrow and Thursday. Obviously, ballots that are mailed from other places that take a couple of days to get here would not be counted until later in the week, maybe even next week. The Thurston County elections will not be certified until November 27th. And if you want to kind of keep up on what's happening with those results, you can go to the auditor's website to check the election results. They will update the results every day. So now let's take a look at the results as they stand so far in Thurston County. This will be the only set of numbers that we receive tonight. We're receiving one set of numbers. Thurston County Proposition number 1. This is the proposition to determine whether or not the Thurston Public Utility District should be empowered to take on an electrical utility, to take on the electrical utility for Greater Thurston County. As it stands right now, as you can see, it is failing by a wide margin. 61% of the voters saying no to that proposition, 39 saying yes. So that's on Proposition 1. We have two county commissioners who are, two incumbent county commissioners who are seeking re-election. And right now in District 1, Kathy Wolf is leading her opponent, Karen Rogers, 57% to 42%. In Thurston County Commission District 2, Sandra Romero, also the incumbent, is leading Andrew Barkas, 43%, or 56% for Sandra Romero and 43% for Andrew Barkas. We have a Superior Court judge position up. Christine Schaller is receiving 66% of the vote. Jim Johnson, 33% of the vote. For Superior Court position 4, Eric Price with 57% of the vote. Indu Thomas with 42% of the vote. In the PUD commissioner's race for District 1, Linda Oosterman has 64%, Steve Fossum 36%. City of Olympia Proposition 1. This is a slight increase to our sales tax that would be used for public safety expenses, it is currently being approved by Olympia voters, 58% to 42%. And Tangle Parks and Rec District Proposition 1, the voters in that district are saying yes to that proposition, 53 to 47%. So those are the Thurston County results so far. Let's take a little look at some of what we can find on the auditor or on the state Secretary of State's page. If you go to sos.wa.gov, you will see results from statewide initiatives and ballots on the Secretary of State's website. Right now, a couple of things that I know most people are very interested in are the two initiatives, two fairly high-profile initiatives. One, referendum measure number 74, which would make same-sex marriages legal in the state of Washington. These are very early results. Right now, as of this moment in time, that referendum is being rejected, 54% to 45%, but these are early results. Just fewer than about 600,000 total votes counted so far, so we know many more votes will be coming in on that. That will be something to watch. Another initiative, the Initiative for Charter Schools, Initiative 1240, is currently passing 52 to 47%. The initiative on tax and fee increases imposed by the state, that one is passing 69% to 30%. So those are some of the initiatives on the state level. We'll be double checking on those. Right now, it's my pleasure. We're going to touch bases with County Commissioner Sandra Romero. She's over at the Red Lion with Bob Neal of the TCTV staff. So we want to have a little conversation with her. We're glad to be able to connect with them by phone. So first of all, Bob, how's it looking over there at the Red Lion? Oh, that's Sandra, not Bob. Hi, Sandra. How are you?
I'm good. Very. Matter of fact.
I was going to say it's an exciting night for you tonight.
It is.
The results are looking like they're trending obviously in your favor. So, so I'm wondering if you have any particular people that you would like to thank for helping you with your campaign so far. Are there any?
My goodness, we have a long list of people to thank, and of course I'm standing in a corner without my list, but I have to start with Sean Meyer, my treasurer, who also organized a lot of sign-waving parades, drove me in parades. She was just wonderful. And then Nicole Hill, who came in and I'm getting a lot of distractions here, trying to keep people away. I'm going to have to turn around here. Okay. So, and Nicole Hill, who helped out immensely, Mary Anderson, organized parades, Brian Hovis, who was an incredible data person, kind of led us through, where we needed to go to, to target, so we didn't spend too much money.
Right. Well, and it takes a huge team to run a campaign.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a huge team. I mean, Mizanua Raman, Saray Reiser, all these people were just really, really key to my campaign and just amazing. And people that, did robocalls, did retired Judge Carol Fuller.
Sounds like there's quite a party going on over there.
It is the biggest party I think I've seen in this county.
Okay. Well, congratulations. Like I said, the numbers certainly look like they're trending in your direction. You have a significant lead over your opponent. So I guess I would ask, as returning to office, what is going to be one of your priorities in your next term?
Well, it's always going to be the budget, making sure that we hold the line so that we make sure the county stays whole and can, serve the citizens. And then also to make sure that we can move our jail, which is crumbling, to our new facility. Right. So those are the two top priorities right now.
Well, I'm going to let you get back to the festivities. I know there's lots of people you probably want to talk to, but I thank you for taking time to spend a little bit of time on the phone with us.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks a lot, Sandra.
Bye-bye.
Sandra mentioned the Accountability and Restitution Center, the ARC, also known as the jail, and we had an opportunity to, in our conversations with candidates during our candidate forums, have a question asked for them by the League of Women Voters. TCTV partners with the League of Women Voters every year on candidate forums. Sandra teed that up so nicely for us. I think we'll take a little moment right now and show you a clip from a candidate forum for all of the candidates for county commissioner, and I hope we're going to be able to talk to a few of them later. So let's take a moment and see what the candidates were saying about the Accountability and Restitution Center during a League of Women Voters candidates forum.
Okay. How do you plan to open and operate the Accountability and Restitution Center, sweetly known as ARC, or in reality the jail, new jail, given the current financial constraints?
There's no doubt that's extremely challenging. Just 2 days ago, I was speaking with Dan Kimball, the former sheriff, who, by the way, did endorse me, as did Gary Edwards, the sheriff before him. Right now, we have a jail that costs $67.9 million when you factor in the interest payments. And it's been sitting empty for 2 years. There is no plan to open it. And currently, it never did have a viable plan. It was discouraged by the sheriffs, who said at the time when it was being built, we don't have the money to operate it. The voters turned out this concept of this particular jail structure twice. And now, yes, it's falling apart. We have problems with the plumbing system, that the rubber sealers are going bad. And we also have things like copper wiring being stolen from the lights outside. There's no doubt about the fact that we have to open this. I spoke with John Snaza. He told me that the only way he can afford to move in is if there are 2 other buildings. The current building, it's 100,000 square feet. It cannot accommodate all of the population we currently have. It can't accommodate women prisoners, nor can it accommodate work release or the mentally ill. He needs those two extra buildings open so he can have all of his staff in one location. He cannot afford to operate 2. So right now it's how to get the money to open those 2 new buildings. Now currently the $100,000 building costs $100,000 square foot building costs $430,000 a year to maintain. If we absolutely have to, I would rather take a bond and use that $430,000 that's currently being wasted and use that to pay down the debt. I don't see any other way of doing this, and I don't think the sheriffs do either.
What is your response to that, Kathy?
Well, first of all, the price of the jail is $45 million, not $67.5. Secondly, it was used by, we used money that was approved by the voters in 1998, the detention sales tax. It is coming in on budget. We have the money budgeted for it. We are able to afford it now. It will be opened after the first of the year. There is a plan, and not only is there a plan, there is incredible amount of cooperation from the sheriff, John Snaza, who's been actually leading the effort, the prosecutor's office, the judges, the county commissioners, the entire courthouse is working very hard together on this plan, and there is very, very definitely a plan. The group meets every other week early in the morning, and Karen, you're certainly welcome to join any of those meetings, and you will see just exactly how much work is being done in the jail. I think the current jail was held together by bubble gum and duct tape and costing voters hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The ARC has been an ongoing discussion point during this campaign. And it's interesting to see right now, that being an election cycle, that the emphasis is being put on to get it open. It's taken many years. As most people know, it's been sitting vacant for 2 years. And over the course of that time, it's costing us taxpayers upwards of $400,000 a year to keep that facility just in a mothballed state. The challenge is, of course, I've heard that it was an economic situation and the funding and everything else, and that does come into play. However, the plan has to be put forth for the long term. The plans that are being developed now by there was a consultant that the Sheriff's Department, actually John Snaza, had instigated. And it develops a very concise plan for staffing and how they can acquire those dollars over the course of time. It's estimated anywhere from $2 million to $3 million a year in additional staffing costs to do that. It is contingent on the staffing model being able to work a different schedule. Of course, there's unions involved and such, and that has not been resolved at this point in time. The biggest thing, Mary, is that I would not, as a commissioner at this point in time, be pushing to open that jail until that plan had been identified and those funding sources for the long term, not just 1 year, but many years down the road. Sheriff hasn't signed off on that particular plan because once he does, he gets the keys to that, and then it becomes his issue and his responsibility. He's also very concerned because he's got other funding issues to be dealing with. More deputies on the road. The fact that in 2013, the Sheriff's Department is now responsible for all on-the-road or over-the-road accident investigations in our county. The demand on personnel is going to be incredible. So we need to look at the budget, we need to look at the staffing models, and we need to look at all things before we rush into opening this facility.
Sandra.
Well, Mary, we are on the road to opening that facility, and we didn't even get an occupancy permit for the ARC until November of last year, so it hasn't really even been sitting idle for a year yet. But we are working closely with the Sheriff's Department and the judges and the prosecuting attorney's office because we're all so closely related, our criminal justice group. And we have a plan, and we are marching forward. We just recently approved the work release facility at the old Owls Welding building on that campus. So we have to have the work release near the new jail because it would be much more economically feasible to do it. So we have a plan, we're moving forward, we're hiring corrections officers, and we're going to make it.
That was excerpts from the League of Women Voters General Election Forum for County Commissioners. It was quite a timely clip to pull considering the conversation I just had with Sandra Romero. We also want to say get well soon to Kathy Wolf. We were hoping to be able to talk to her tonight, but she is not feeling well and is home. So I hope she's watching. We wish you well, and it looks like things are trending in her direction also relative to the local results. So speaking of results, let's take a look at the results for Thurston County. Okay, Proposition 1, the public-private power initiative is failing. 61% of voters say no to that proposition. That's the proposition where voters were being asked whether or not the Thurston PUD should become an electrical utility. Moving on, we see in the county commission race, as we just mentioned, Kathy Wolf with 57% of the vote over Karen Rogers with 42% of the vote in the District 1 seat. In the District 2 seat, Sandra Romero has a fairly impressive, commanding lead with 56% of the vote over Andrew Barkus with 43% of the vote. This was an interesting race because this was, both of these races, but especially in the Wolf Rogers race, two Democrats. It was the top two in our primary. They went through, so we had two Democrats running for that seat in that District 1 race. Moving on for Superior Court Position 2, Christine Schaller with 66% of the vote over Jim Johnson with 33%. Position 4 in the Superior Court, Eric Price with 47% over Indu Thomas with 42%. In the PUD Commissioner's race in District 1, Linda Oosterman with 64% of the vote, significant lead over Steve Fossum with 36%. In the city of Olympia, Proposition 1 is a slight increase in the sales tax to be used for public safety initiatives. It's being approved, 58% of the vote, 42% of Olympia residents rejecting that at this point. And in Tanglewild Parks and Recreation District 1, proposition number 1 is passing with a 53% yes vote, 47% no in that proposition. So I was taking a look at some of the statewide races. You can go to the Secretary of State's website, sos.wa.gov, and take a look at races. And I know it's a race that many of us here in Thurston County are interested in is the race for Secretary of State. Secretary of State Sam Reed is retiring at the end of this term, and our very own Kim Wyman, the auditor here in Thurston County, is the Republican candidate competing against Kathleen Drew. And as you can see right now, the results are fairly close, 49% to 51%. Now these are statewide results, and the results here are still a little bit early. But again, as an all mail-in ballot state, it does affect how ballots are counted. Everything collected up to today gets, counted depending on the county you're in. Some collect or count things that were, received later in the day than in others. But the fact remains there's going to be thousands of ballots remaining to be counted tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. Elections in the state of Washington will be certified on November 27th. So Kim Wyman, the Thurston County Auditor, with 49% of the vote. Her opponent, Kathleen Drew, right now with 51% of the vote. In the 10th Congressional District, this is the new congressional district. The state of Washington got an extra congressional seat as a result of the census, and the 10th Congressional District was carved out of basically the South Puget Sound area, portions of the top half of Thurston County and a little bit of Pierce County. Democrat Denny Heck is leading that race right now with 55% of the vote, and his opponent Dick Murray with 45% of the vote. So again, we'll wait to see how that pans out. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have a conversation with Denny a little bit later in the program. But right now, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of election returns right after these messages.
Head, hands,
Can
heart,
we get
and health.
Danny?
Those are the 4-H's of the 4-H Club. And this year marks the 110th year that the 4-H Club has been around, augmenting our children's education. Learn more about the Thurston County 4-H Club on this month's Mission Nonprofit. Watch Mission Nonprofit Sundays at 4:30 p.m., Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Thursdays at 7:30 p.m., Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. on Channel 77 on Comcast or Channel 23 in Yelp.
Law and justice officials from across Thurston County thank you for supporting Crime Stoppers. Over the past 20 years, tips from Thurston County Crime Stoppers have led to the arrest of more than 900 suspects, recovery of $9 million in stolen property and narcotics, and helped to solve serious crimes including homicides, auto thefts, and armed bank robberies. Crime Stoppers pays up to $1,000 cash for information leading to an arrest. If you see a crime, please call Crime Stoppers at 493-2222. And remember,
you never have to leave your name.
Pump up the tires on your car.
Pump them up.
Even if you're not gonna drive that far, you use much more gas when your tires are low.
Pump them up.
Increase your exhaust, make your car slow, yeah.
I'm Paul, master mechanic for the City of Olympia.
Pump them up.
Did you know that properly inflated tires on your car can save you 144 gallons of gas each year?
Pump them up.
That's $432. And that eliminates 1.5 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. Low tire pressure increases exhaust emissions, decreases fuel mileage, wears out your tires, and causes poor handling. So check your tires today. A message from your Public Works Department.
Price of gas is gonna make you mad.
Make you mad.
The CO2 is gonna make the earth sad. Yeah. Wherever you're going, wherever you are, pump up the tires on your car.
My favorite thing about community media is how people find their voice and tell their story.
It's the message of, by, and for a community.
We're a gathering place because it gets people of all sorts of different backgrounds underneath one roof.
It's art, it's technology.
A snapshot of our community.
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
You're watching TCTV's 2012 Election Night Returns. I'm Deborah Vinsel from TCTV. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening. If you're listening on KAOS 89.3 FM in Olympia, we're glad to have you with us. Thanks to KAOS for carrying the audio of this program. You're great community media partners, and we appreciate the partnership and the friendship that we've developed over the years. So there's been, it's been a busy night. If you have not already heard, the national media has announced that they are calling the presidential race for President Barack Obama. So it looks like President Obama has won his second term. The national media making that call just a few minutes ago. So right now we want to go to I lost where I was. Right now, we're going to share with you a look at a candidates forum that was held between the 10th Congressional District candidates Dick Murray and Danny Heck. Again, a new congressional district here in Washington, right here in the South Sound. And the two candidates met for a candidates forum at the Washington Center a couple of weeks ago. The forum was sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Olympian. TCTV was pleased to be there to capture a part of it. And here's what the candidates had to say.
Affordable Care Act, why or why not?
Yes, because it makes us a better country. I would keep it, although there are modifications I would make. I like a lot that you cannot be denied health care coverage because of a pre-existing condition. I like a lot that families know that if somebody gets sick, they won't reach some arbitrary cap on health care benefits. I like a lot that my son Trey, sitting in the audience, 21 years old, is able to be on mom and dad's health care plan. These are good features that make America a better and stronger nation. At the same time, the Affordable Health Care Act, just like every other piece of legislation that passes, isn't perfect, and it can be improved upon. Probably most significantly, we need to attack more aggressively containing cost in health care delivery. We need quality health care for more people, but at an affordable rate. And the Health Care Act probably isn't going to solve that problem. Health care inflation is 2 to 3 times what overall inflation is, and we need to move away from fee-based services to incentivizing wellness outcomes.
Thank you. Dick?
I believe that we should repeal the Affordable Care Act, start with a clean slate, and come up with a bipartisan approach to health care in this country. Steal a little thunder from Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney said it well. You know, in Massachusetts, they came up with a good plan, but it was a bipartisan plan, where 98% of the people voted for it. The Affordable Care Act, or some people know it as Obamacare, had bipartisan opposition. Not one Republican voted for it. There was nothing addressed by tort reform. There was nothing to do about having interstate competition and affordability there. So I would start with a clean slate, and let's negotiate, let's compromise. That's how we make legislation. That's how sausage is made in the back room. You get down both parties and you trade. I'll give you this if you give me that. This was a one-sided deal, and I don't think it really controls costs, and it takes way too much money out of Medicare.
Thank you. Dick, next question. There are projected plans for the possible construction of terminals for the export of coal in our state and Oregon, as well as for transporting the coal in open cars. Do you support these plans? Why or why not?
Well, the plans I've seen maybe go too far. You know, I think we're going to have to, China has a lot of our money. They want to buy our coal. Fortunately, we have more coal than I guess we can allow to burn. But I think the state of Washington and the state of Oregon really have to have some good inputs on that before we go as far as what they're proposing. In some ways, I kind of feel bad that we have to be exporting an energy source that we should be using either with clean coal to produce the electricity we need, or to even from alternative fuels. So right now, that's I would hope that the federal government would allow the state of Washington and the states of Oregon to have a lot of input on the environmental impact statement that will have to pass first before this will be done. It goes through my hometown of Steilacoom. Let me tell you, those long coal trains will truly muck things up if that does happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Denny.
Well, I support Governor Gregoire's call that we have a comprehensive review of the cumulative effects of the 5 proposed port terminals, 3 in Oregon and 2 in Washington, 1 down in Longview and 1 up in Bellingham at Cherry Point. In fact, I'm a bit against taking hard and fast positions for or against positions before the actual study and analysis has been done. Mm-hmm. This is the appropriate next step. But from a general standpoint, I will say that this planet has a dire need to begin to reduce its dependence on the consumption of dirty fossil fuel. This country has a dire need to begin to reduce its dependence on purchasing dirty fossil fuel from people that hate us. This planet, this country, needs to move toward clean, alternative energy sources like wind and solar and the like. And to that end, I think that Congress in the lame duck session ought to get with it and enact the extension of the production tax credit to reignite investment in wind power.
That was an excerpt from a candidates forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters and the Olympia and held a couple of weeks ago between the candidates for the new 10th congressional legislative seat, Denny Heck, the Democrat, and Dick Murray, the Republican. As it stands right now, Mr. Heck is leading that race with more than 54% of the vote. Mr. Murray has 45% of the vote. Again, the way an all-ballot election works, you know, everything that has been collected or received as of today will be counted today, and you will see that reflected in the results we have. But a lot of people choose to put their ballots in the mail today, so anything with a post office postmark on it as of today may not be received for a couple of days. So it could be, you know, it could be a few days before we have all of the ballots counted. In fact, in Thurston County, they're going to count every day for the next couple of days, and we'll certify the election on November 27th. Right now we have Bob Whitlock on the phone. Hi, thanks for joining us, Bob. Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hi, how we doing?
Great. How are you? I can see you on TV right now.
Hey, that's great. Robert, so how are things going over where you are?
Well, the spirit is sort of mixed. People are happy and disappointed and encouraged and discouraged at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's bittersweet. I think they're feeling that a good battle has been fought against a very tremendous adversary, and that we did well, all things considered. And we're certainly looking at the money statistics, matching those up with the number of votes and the percentages.
Right.
We're very happy with the efficiency of our expenditures.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I did not explain to the viewers and the listeners who you were. It's Robert Whitlock with the Yes on Proposition Number 1, the Public Power Initiative. So looking at a 60-40 roughly election results, 61% no on that, 39% yes. Is this something that you think your group and folks who supported this initiative might try to bring back later in the future?
Oh, I think there's definitely interest in that. What it would look like in terms of a timeline is unknown at this point.
Right.
And I think people are going to need some time to recover. The last few weeks, I think, have taken a lot of work and energy, and people just need some rest and relaxation and recharging here.
About how many folks were involved in the organization behind the Yes on Proposition 1 campaign?
Oh, hundreds. The number of people that were out with petitions was huge, and yeah, I can't speak to that specifically.
Right.
But we, dozens to 100, and it was a huge community effort.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for taking some time to talk with us tonight. I appreciate it. I know it was a hard-fought battle. Didn't go the way you and your supporters had hoped it would, but we do appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight.
And thank you, Deb, and thank you for covering the election, and thanks for having us on.
You're welcome. Thank you for watching. That was Robert Whitlock from the Yes on Proposition 1, the Public Power Initiative proposition. So we have a few more minutes left in the program, so stay tuned. We'll come back with a final recap of the results right after this message.
All across our country, public access stations are losing funding and shutting down. Here in Thurston County, we have a vibrant public access center where you can create your own television show in your own backyard and share it with your community.
Community television, having spent a career in the commercial end of it, I can tell you is an invaluable asset to community.
Getting started is easy. Just attend one of our monthly orientations. Membership is affordable. For $35 a year, you can enroll in fun training classes and learn how to use all of our equipment. Everything from cameras and microphones to the studio control room and editing computers.
The people here at TCTV will get you through anything and everything that you need to be successful.
TCTV really does empower people to develop skills.
Members televise their programs at no additional cost to Comcast cable subscribers throughout Thurston County and to a global audience on the web.
We've been able to broaden the amount of information that the public has and to get people more deeply involved with issues and activities, and then to connect with the organizations locally that are doing really great things.
The people here in the community have the ability to put a show on the air that is of interest to them and perhaps also the community.
The very name probably says it, Thurston Community Television. And it's that powerful energy that brings the community together.
So what are you waiting for? Join TCTV and create compelling video. Just visit us online at tctv.net or call 360-956-3100 to inquire about the next free orientation session. TCTV, providing communication resources to build a stronger community.
Yes, we would love for you to become a part of what we do here. Go to tctv.net for more information about Thurston Community Television. And we want to thank our friends at KAOS 89.3 FM in Olympia for carrying the audio of our election returns program. So we have about 4 minutes left. We're going to recap the results one more time for those of you who might have just tuned in late, so you know what's going on. In Thurston County, Proposition 1, the public-private power proposition is failing. 61% of voters say no, they do not want the PUD to become an electric utility. 39% were in favor of that. In the County Commission District 1, Kathy Wolf has a commanding lead over her opponent, Karen Rogers, 57% to 42%. And you'll notice 2 Democrats on the ticket. That's a result of the top 2 primaries that we have. So both women favor the Democratic Party. They were the top 2 vote getters in the primary. That's why there are 2 Democrats on the ticket for that race. For District 2, Sandra Romero, the incumbent, with 56% over her opponent, Andrew Barkas, with 43%. In the Superior Court races, 2 positions. For position number 1, Christine Schaller has 66% of the vote. Jim Johnson, 33% of the vote. And in position 4, Eric Price is leading Indu Thomas, 57% to 42%. In the PUD Commission race in District 1, Linda Oosterman has a significant lead, 64% of the vote for Linda Oosterman over Steve Fossum with 36% of the vote. City of Olympia Proposition 1, that's the public safety funding proposition, is being approved by Olympia residents, 58% to 42% saying no. And in Tanglewild, the Parks and Recreation District, Proposition 1 is passing, 53% of voters saying yes to 47% saying no. So that is what is happening in Thurston County tonight. Again, those results are not final results. More results will be counted, more ballots will be counted tomorrow and the next day. Oh, we do want to mention that in the congressional race statewide, or in the district-wide, in the 10th Congressional District, Denny Heck, the Democrat, with 55% of the vote right now, Dick Murray with 45% of the vote to be the congressional representative, the U.S. representative for the new District 10 in the state of Washington. Again, there will be more ballots cast. Thurston County anticipates that they will be counting 30,000 to 40,000 ballots in the next couple of days. Counting will continue for several days, and the county website will be updated as those results come in. It will be November 27th before this election is certified. So if you dropped your ballot into a drop box before 2 o'clock today, or if you mailed it and it was received before today, it would have been counted today. Anything received after that or postmarked today will be counted tomorrow, beginning tomorrow, over the next several times. So right now I want to say shout out to my good buddy John Ford over at KAOS. How you doing, John?
One.
So.
Well, hi, diddly ho, neighbor.
Hey there, how you doing?
Well, not bad. I'm seeing all the major networks, including Fox, are giving the election to Mr. Obama.
That's what we heard. We heard that had happened.
Apparently, they're in apoplexy at Fox over it.
Well, I won't pass judgment on our. Oh yeah, I will. So they're apoplectic at Fox. What the heck?
To be apoplectic.
Yeah. So now what's going to be happening after we wrap up here? What's going on KAOS?
Well, we're going to go back to Amy Goodman and Ron Gonzalez till 10 p.m. and then Richard Sinclair will come in for an abbreviated version of his wonderful show, Dancing in Circles.
Great. Well, thanks for carrying our audio, John. We greatly appreciate the partnership. Support community media, support KAOS, support TCTV. I'm getting the sign that I've got to wrap up. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next year.